Knight to f6. Will it be a Nimzo Indian? Will it be a Queen's Gambit declined? Will it be something totally different? c4 on the board. And Pragg looking at the other boards on the big screen. Of course, he has to keep an eye on Arvind's game, who's facing Edis Gurel, and g6 on the board. A rare guest these days at top level tournaments. Will Pragg play the Grunfeld with d5? He goes bishop g7. We are in for a treat. It's going to be the King's Indian defense. e4 played here by Anish. For Anish, it's a great thing that Pragg is playing for a win here, because it gives him chances to fight for the full point. Bishop e2. Played it, and Pragg now castles. King's Indian, a big favorite of world-class players like Fischer, Kasparov, Nakamura. And now Pragg plays e5 right into the center. He's playing the main line, and Anish quickly castles it out. There are many ways to play this position. Knight c6 is one of the main ways. Bishop g4 is getting recently quite popular. Pragg takes his time and takes the pawn on d4. Now, this move is not supposed to be great, but if you think about it, what black is trying to do is give white space, have this kind of pawns on e4 and c4, but then attack them with rook e8, knight on f6, the other knight could come from d7 to c5, and so on. Anish plays his pawn to f3, defending the pawn on e4, and Pragg very quickly blitzes out c6. His plan could be to play the move d5. So Anish plays king to h1, and now if d5 is played, there is this take bishop g5 line, which is pretty good for white. So Pragg goes knight bd7, keeping as many pieces as possible and as many options open. Bishop e3 comes in. The point is, if you play d5, I take and jump with my knight to b5, looking at the d6 square. And that's the reason why Pragg plays a6. The b5 square is now controlled. He wants to break in the center with d5. And you can see there that the rook is eyeing the bishop on e3, quickly bringing back the knight to c2. Anish playing his moves quickly. He has 1 hour 29 minutes on the clock. Now, one reason why Pragg played the King's Indian defense was to surprise Anish. But if Anish is not surprised, then that's not a great thing for Pragg. f4 played, and Anish even making this very committal move quickly, which means he's clearly in his preparation. The knight is attacked, and now the knight goes to g4, attacking the bishop on e3. The bishop comes back to g1, and the knight on g4 is a little bit precariously positioned. Of course, you can't take here. g4 is hanging later. So he first goes h5, protecting his knight, now attacking the e4 pawn. And h3 would not work because he'll simply take on e4, hg, the queen would move in. So that's the reason why bishop f3 played here by Anish, defending the e4 pawn. Now Pragg has started to think a bit, and after a couple of minutes plays bishop e6, attacking the pawn on c4. Now there has been a game of Vladimir Kramnik here, who played b3, but Anish goes queen d3, which is a much superior move. He wants to bring his rook to d1 to attack the d6 pawn weakness. Excellent play here. b5 played by Praggnanandhaa. He pushes his pawn, and now the c4 pawn is under pressure. What is Anish going to do next? He takes the pawn on b5. Pragg will recapture back. A takes b5. Thinking a bit, Pragg there, and takes it. ab5, opening up the rook, also threatening bishop c4, a skewer here. And Anish brings the rook to d1. So if bishop c4, the d6 pawn is hanging. Not so easy to defend that pawn. And look at the times on the clock. Now Pragg has gone below Anish's time. He pushes the pawn to d5, right into the center, heart of the position. E takes d5 does not really work because after knight takes d5, black has equalized. So he pushes the pawn to Anish. Oh, doesn't push. Now pushes e5 on the board. And bishop f5 is actually a very sharp and interesting move because after queen d2, you want to jump in with your knight to e4. But Pragg simply goes knight d7. He brings his knight here. Maybe he wants to jump from c5, come to e4 at a later point. But what is Anish's choice going to be? He brings his knight to d4. Excellent move, attacking the bishop on e6, but also the pawn on c6. And if you were to play rook c8, this is just super passive position for black. So Pragg decides to sack a piece. He takes on e5 with one of his knights. He will have just 2 pawns for the piece. Is it enough compensation? That's the big question here, especially because black will have 3 pawns in the center rolling down the board. Knight takes e5, instantly chopped off by Pragg. And now the queen has to decide where to go. You can go back queen c2, which is the best square. Queen d2 you don't want to be playing because knight can jump to c4 attacking the queen. So queen c2 on the board here. And now Praggnanandhaa has a tough choice. He can't really push c5 just yet because I'll take on e6, then d5 and b5 are weak. So maybe not c5. He plays bishop to d7, defending the pawn on c6. And now a3 played here by Anish. He wanted to stop b4. It's a stabilizing move to some extent. Also, if he played b4, the rook would jump into a3. So he thought, why not push my pawn to a3 here? And Pragg drinking water here, but I don't think it's going to help much. He generally drinks it when he is better or winning, but this time he's worse. h4 played. And guys, remember that knight takes bishop will be met with knight takes bishop. So h4, and now Anish very happily will stop that pawn. He goes h3. So pawn comes up ahead, stopping black's pawn from moving up. For Pragg to find a move is not at all easy. He needs to do something drastic here. And he finds the best move, c5 on the board. Because if you move your knight away, d4 is coming. The knight takes f3 is coming. So Anish finds this amazing move, bishop d5. Giving back the piece, but in return getting tremendous activity. Pragg chops off the knight on d4. Now it's time to take that knight as well, that pawn as well with the bishop. Bishop takes d4. Look at the white pieces right into the center of the board, looking at f7, looking at g7, the queen looking at g6. Amazing. It's all worked out beautifully for Anish Giri here. And he's also attacking the rook here on a8. So rook b8 to defend the pawn on b5. Well, Anish has to tread a bit carefully here because the material has been equalized. Also, there could be some discoveries down the d file. The same can be said about the rook standing opposite the queen there. And now, after quite a bit of think, Anish finds this amazing move, knight e4. I love this move because it is looking at the d6 square. It's also looking at the c5 square. It's just a useful move to make. And Pragg plays the shocking move bishop g4. If you take hg4, queen takes d5 is hanging, the bishop right into the center is hanging. But there is a winning move here for white, and that begins with bishop takes f7. Will Anish be able to find it? He removes his jacket and finds it. Bishop takes f7 on the board. And now the thing is, if the king moves away, g4 is hanging, the rook is also hanging, so you need to take it. If you take with the knight, there is knight f6 check, bishop takes, queen comes in, and it's all over. So he takes it with the king. But now with the king coming up, look at this. The rook is opposite the king, queen here, and Anish takes his time but takes this knight on g4, an excellent move. He's completely winning. The threat is, of course, bishop takes e5, so the queen will have to move. But where exactly can the queen go? There is no square available. He plays queen e7, but now bishop c5 attacking the queen and also threatening knight d6 is totally winning. He plays it. Bishop c5 is on the board, and now it's time for Praggnanandhaa to resign this game. He has nothing much happening. The white king is a bit weak, but that's all. Queen c7 played by Pragg, but now knight jumping to d6. Why not? Well, first he gives a check. Queen to b3 check has been played here, and knight comes to c4, blocking the check. And then at this point, Praggnanandhaa is in big trouble. Anish jumped in with the knight, giving a check. King moved back. He took on e8, rook e8, queen takes on b5, rook comes up. He puts his bishop on d4. Excellent move. If you play bishop takes d4, there is check and you lose the rook. So knight e3, takes, and rook d3, offering a trade of rooks once again. It was not accepted, but the game is over. With the rook planning to come in, Praggnanandhaa resigned here, and Anish Giri scored his second win of the tournament, eventually finishing second, and Pragg missed a golden opportunity to do well in the Pragmasters. He did well in 8 rounds, but then the final and the most important one, he lost, just like Vaikanze. And Pragg will go back to the drawing board and figure out what he